Hare Krishna everyone, we're continuing to read the Bhagavad Gita as it is. The book by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Chapter 2. Contents of the Gita summarized, text 40. Neha bhikrama nashosti pratyavayo navidyate svalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Purport: activity in Krishna consciousness, or acting for the benefit of Krishna without expectation of sense gratification, is the highest transcendental quality of work. Even a small beginning of such activity finds no impediment, nor can that small beginning be lost at any stage. Any work begun on the material platform, material plane, has to be completed. Otherwise, the whole attempt becomes a failure. But any work begun in Krishna consciousness has a permanent effect, even though not finished. The performer of such work is therefore not at a loss, even if his work in Krishna consciousness is incomplete. 1% done in Krishna consciousness bears permanent results, so that the next beginning is from the point of 2%, whereas in material activity without 100% success, there is no profit. Ajamil performed his duty in some percentage of Krishna consciousness, but the result he enjoyed at the end was 100%, by the grace of the Lord. There is a nice verse in this connection in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.17. Tyaktva svadharmam charanam bhujam harer bhajanna pakvotha patet tato yadi yatra kvava bhadram abhudamushya kim kavartha apto bhajatam swadharmataha. Quote: if someone gives up his occupational duties and works in Krishna consciousness, and then falls down on account of not completing his work, what loss is there on his part? And what can one gain if one performs his material activities perfectly? Or as the Christians say, what profited a man if he gained the whole world yet suffers the loss of his eternal soul? Material activities and their results end with the body, but work in Krishna consciousness carries a person again to Krishna consciousness, even after the loss of the body. At least one is sure to have a chance in the next life of being born again as a human being, either in the family of a great cultured Brahmana, or in a rich aristocratic family that will give one a further chance for elevation. That is the unique quality of work done in Krishna consciousness. Jai. One may argue that we do some work, those who are aware of the laws of karma and reincarnation, they say that you do some pious work to gain punya, pious credits in this life, and then you go to the heavenly planets, or you get a good birth, you become beautiful, wealthy, powerful in the material world. But then you waste all of your pious credits, and then you end up with nothing. Because if you gain something, you lose it in the material sense, even your pious credits. Because we see, like, it will be explained also in Srimad Bhagavatam how, the cycle is usually such that people are struggling, they're doing austerities, they're doing tapasya, they gain something, and then they get to the peak, and then they get spoiled. They turn to sinful activities, and then they go down. So, and even in Krishna book, in 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it's explained how there was one king who was so pious, he was doing so many beneficial, good works, and then one time there was one mishap, that one cow accidentally went from one herd to another. So he gifted it to one brahmana, and the cow accidentally got mixed up, and then he gifted the same cow second time, and there was a big ruckus and big scene about this, and he was cursed. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that no matter how much you try to, even if you do it everything according to karma kanda, to law of karma, to, like, you can't satisfy but you can't fit in this world, because something will always go wrong, and a little mistake, not even his personal mistake, but some mistake, is basically he ended up being a lizard, if I'm not mistaken, in the next birth, or a demon. Okay, so there is diminution and there's always loss in material endeavor, but in spiritual endeavor, not only there is no loss, nothing is lost. As much as you do, it's your permanent, like it's literally forever. It doesn't end when your body dies, and actually you don't die basically after that. And there's no diminution. You can't lose it. It's just, if you think about this, it's the best deal that you can have. Yeah. And sometimes we don't think about this, how Prabhupada mentions that it can protect you from the most dangerous type of fear. And I heard in different classes what it means, the most dangerous type of fear. Some say it means to forget who you are, or to forget the Lord. Then you end up in a real hellish condition. So there will always be help, and all of your endeavors will not go in vain. Next verse is the pivot, or the most crucial verse of all time, I would say. It's very important. It played a very important role in my life, and Srila Prabhupada, he also, basically this whole Krishna consciousness movement, the ISKCON family, it was inspired by this verse. It's very dear to me, and I'm very excited to read it again. Text 41. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana bahushakha hyanantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. Purport. A strong faith that by Krishna consciousness one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life is called Vyavasayatmika intelligence. The Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 22.62 states, Shraddha Shabde Vishwasakahe Sudridha Nishchaya Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Krittahaya. Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. When one is engaged in the duties of Krishna consciousness, he need not act in relationship to the material world with obligations to family traditions, humanity, or nationality. Fruitive activities are the engagements of one's reactions from past good or bad deeds. When one is awake in Krishna consciousness, he need no longer endeavor for good results in his activities. When one is situated in Krishna consciousness, all activities are on the absolute plane, for they are no longer subject to dualities like good and bad. The highest perfection of Krishna consciousness is renunciation of the material conception of life. This state is automatically achieved by progressive Krishna consciousness. Jai. The resolute purpose of a person in Krishna consciousness is based on knowledge. Vasudeva sarvam iti samahatma sudurlabha. A person in Krishna consciousness is the rare, good soul who knows perfectly that Vasudeva or Krishna is the root of all manifested causes. As by watering the root of a tree, one automatically distributes water to the leaves and branches, so by acting in Krishna consciousness, one can render the highest service to everyone, namely self, family, society, country, humanity, etc. If Krishna is satisfied by one's actions, then everyone will be satisfied. Service in Krishna consciousness is, however, best practiced under the able guidance of a spiritual master, who is a bona fide representative of Krishna, who knows the nature of the student, and who can guide him to act in Krishna consciousness. As such, to be well versed in Krishna consciousness has the lights went off. 1 second. As such, to be well versed in Krishna consciousness, one has to act firmly and obey the representative of Krishna. And one should accept the instructions of the bona fide spiritual master as one's mission in life. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur instructs us in his famous prayers for the spiritual master as follows. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado, yasya prasadan nagati kutopi, dhyayan stuvam stasya yashastri sandhyam, vande guru shri charanaravindam. Quote, by satisfaction of the spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes satisfied. And by not satisfying the spiritual master, there is no chance of being promoted to the plane of Krishna consciousness. I should therefore meditate and pray for his mercy 3 times a day, and offer my respectful obeisances unto him, my spiritual master. Unquote. The whole process, however, depends on perfect knowledge of the soul beyond the conception of the body, not theoretically, but practically, when there is no longer a chance for sense gratification manifested in fruitive activities. one who is not firmly fixed in mind is diverted by various types of fruitive acts. Jai. Many times, not many times, every time you read this verse, every time it opens for you in a different way, from a different angle. And 10 years back, I would see this verse and I would see only these points: that take instructions of the spiritual masters, your mission of life, resolute determination, one-pointed, and let your mind not be distracted by anything else. This is the sole purpose. And now, reading the purport, I specifically you can say it caught my attention that Prabhupada says that when one is awake in Krishna consciousness, he need no longer endeavor for good results in his activities, because you become above the dualities like good and bad. And it reminded me of how we just read in the previous book, in Teachings of Lord Kapila, that Prabhupada says that on the material plane, if the servant serves in a good way, the master is pleased. And if the master pays the servant, then the servant is pleased. But in the spiritual relationship, even if the servant is not able to serve nicely, the master is still pleased. And if the master doesn't pay, the servant is still pleased. So further it will be revealed, but basically being awake in Krishna consciousness means that you're acting in the relationship, in loving relationship with the Supreme Lord. And it's not about good results or bad results of your work. It doesn't define relationships anymore. In Shivaram Maharaj's book, Naparayaham, it's mentioned, Srimati Radharani is speaking about what is love of God, and she says that you can't define love of God. You can the only hint that you can get to understand it is what pleases my beloved, what displeases my beloved. And it's so away from this, our crude understanding of we need to have the good results, or oh no, we have the bad result. It's like what really pleases. And it's really, I don't want to speak for too long, but now I'm at a point in my spiritual life where I more and more, especially dealing with a lot of expectations sometimes for the good results in our service, and having gone through a lot of bad results in my service, you come to this conclusion that really, like, if you really want to grow and develop in Krishna consciousness, you have to understand that it's really above all of these dualities, and only then you can actually become resolute in purpose and not many-branched, not distracted. Jai. So, thank you so much for tuning in today. These were two very important verses, actually, and interesting. Now that we're doing this on the podcast, I was waiting for Bhagavad Gita to be read on the podcast, because podcast helps me to focus nicer on the reading. And I think it's the first time I realized that Lord Krishna speaks about these points so early on. So as soon as Arjuna surrendered and Krishna defeated all of his arguments in regards to dharma and like his honor and this and that. Then he speaks about what he wants, that he wants him to fight. And then he speaks immediately about this. He speaks Vyavasayatmika Buddhir Ekeha Kurunandana. Wow, immediately. Jai. Okay, it's enough for today for you. Thank you so much for tuning in. The link to this book is... tomorrow is also a very important verse. Remembering Bhakti Shastri. Okay, again, we'll see you tomorrow. The link to this book is in the description. Check it out, read it along with us, share it with everyone you know. This book has saved thousands and millions of people since time immemorial, and it will save anybody who actually sincerely approaches it. So freely share this gift with everyone. See you tomorrow. Hare Krishna.